Good evening to my fellow farmers. Eamon here from Ashlawn Farm Retirement. I'm here in the home of Robert Troy, TD here in Mullingar, with the Minister of Agriculture, Charlie McConnell Oak. I'm going to speak with Charlie on the whole matter of farmers retiring and farmers transferring the farm over to the next generation. Minister, you're very welcome to Mullingar. Minister, are you concerned that 30% of our farmers is over 65 years of age? Is there any other industry that has such a high age profile of farmers still active, or in any other industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big challenge. It's one that concerns me, and it's one over the last couple of years I've been looking to see what steps we can take to actually address that. I think the biggest thing we have to do is make farming attractive for young people to come into it. I know in the past we've had retirement schemes, which has encouraged farmers to retire early. And for example, the retirement scheme that would have been in the 2 caps ago would have encouraged farmers between the ages of 55 and 65 to retire early. But as you say yourself, the biggest challenge is that there's many farmers who are over the age of 65, 66 who are still farming, for example, who will be eligible for a pension already. But the big challenge there is actually having successors coming through. So I think what we have to do is work to make sure that agriculture and farming is as attractive as possible, and that we're ensuring that the bottom line of the income can be as strong as possible. So from a government point of view and as Minister, I'm working hard to try and make sure that we're investing more in agriculture, investing more in new technology as well, investing more in digital technology and robotic technology, to try and improve the situation with regard to labour and making lifestyles better, and also as well investing in a way that actually encourages young farmers to come in through a young farmer scheme, for example. We've doubled the funding that's now available, but there's no doubt we need to do more.
But when you see that a farmer can hold on to his farm, his livestock, his single farm payment, and plus draw a fairly generous state pension, what incentive is there for him to hand that on to the next generation?
Yeah, well, I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue actually is young people coming through. And I think the issue also is the fact that, we're in a strong economy at the moment where there's lots of job opportunities across many different professions, and we've quite an educated workforce as well, indeed a really educated workforce in agriculture. But in that situation where you have a stronger economy, people see that they are looking for opportunities where their lifestyle can be as strong as possible. And I think across professions such as agriculture, and particularly primary production and farming itself, which is not 9 to 5, not Monday to Friday, which does have a 7-day a week, a significant 7-day a week aspect to it, and out of hours aspect. Jobs such as that are more difficult to attract young people into right now. But I think the focus has to be in terms of how we make it more attractive, how we make it more profitable and worthwhile from an income point of view, but also how we can work to try through farm investment to make the lifestyle more manageable as well.
A statistic I've seen recently that 35% of all our farmers is over 65 years of age. And 50% of all our land and all our farms is going to be transferred from one owner to another in the space of the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. You take it that we have 35% of our farmers is over 66. We have another big percentage between 55 and 65. And then look at those, and then people that will maybe just die early, and their farms will have to be transferred on to a different owner, and taking the amount of lands that will be sold. So we're going to get a huge amount of land being transferred from one owner to the next. It's going to be the biggest shift of ownership of land that this country have ever seen in the next 10 to 15 years. From my experience in life, you always need the carrot and stick approach. And it doesn't seem to be either there at the minute. Should you not be able to link the single farm payment, to if a person is getting the state pension, should they as well get another pension, for the want of a better word, as well?
I think the challenge is actually having the reason I think people are holding on and farming, into their later years, is not because necessarily they want to still be the primary holder of the farm. It's because of not having somebody keen to come through, or instead holding on to keep it going, waiting for the next generation to actually take up the reins, because the next generation is maybe off building up another profession. And that's what's happening in many instances, particularly in farms which are not full time, which is probably 2/3 of our farms across the country, of the 130,000 farms we have. I think across the board, whether it's full time or part time farms, we have to work to try and see new ways to make it attractive for young people to come in. And I think particularly in full time instances, it's about trying to make sure that we make the lifestyle stronger and invest on farm to make sure farms operate in as efficient a way as possible and a time efficient way as possible. But there's no doubt part of the challenge as well is the strong economy at the moment that we're seeing, and therefore income and making sure incomes can be strong, and we look to see how we can do that. And I think we have to, and I'm open to ideas all the time too, as to how we can do that.
Are we ready for that? Is our young farmers ready for this? Is the country ready for it? Why is there such a high percentage of farmers over 65 still farming and still holding on to the land? From my own experience of transferring it to my son over the last 3 or 4 years, it cost us up in Trent being about 35 to 40,000 euros between legal fees, stamp duties, and all the other costs with it. Is there anything there that the department could, help farmers with those costs? And help farmers with certainly the advice and pitfalls that there is in transferring the farm, and particularly got to do with your own private house and all the rest, and particularly as well with single farm payment. Should the department not be doing more to help farmers at that stage of transfer in some monetary terms?
Yeah, well, I suppose first of all we do have a grant scheme in place in terms of advising people in terms of generational renewal and retirement and transfer planning. So there is a grant in place for that. But even more significantly, agriculture has a range of tax supports which is not available to other sectors, in terms of the transfer, in terms of exemptions from stamp duty, and in terms of exemptions from inheritance tax for young trained farmers. And that's in place there in terms of the generational renewal and transferring the farm from one generation to the next. And it's exceptional across the wider economy in terms of the supports that's there for young farmers. And that's something we're absolutely committed to continuing. But it is particularly targeted at young farmers, for those under the age of 40. So there is that incentive there to make sure that farms transfer to people under the age of 40 to young farmers who are young and trained, and very significant tax incentives to do that. And that's a particular encouragement as well to try and make sure the generational renewal is happening sooner rather than later.
Are we ready for that? Us farmers ready for that? Is our young farmers ready for this?